This is Southern Cross News with Joe Palmer.
Good evening, everyone. The federal government is handballing the ownership of the Mersey Community Hospital back to the state government as part of a $730 million deal. Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull says the historic transfer will end years of uncertainty. But some are not convinced.
The federal government once again rolling in to keep the Mersey Community Hospital going. The Prime Minister announcing his government will give $730 million to the Tasmanian government in one lump sum to secure the hospital for the next decade. The money to be kept under lock and key and used only for the Mersey.
There's been a lot of uncertainty over the future of the hospital for a long time, and we brought all of that to an end.
As part of the deal, ownership will be transferred from the Commonwealth back to the state government as of July 1.
Which is where it should be, so that it can work seamlessly as part of Tasmania's One Health system.
Now, this is about security for the hospital, it's about security for employment, and it's about security for local services.
It was a decade ago when then Prime Minister John Howard was given a rockstar welcome before buying the hospital for $1 amid concerns services were being downgraded. Mr Turnbull's visit not quite as superstar-like and receiving mixed reactions.
At the moment we're getting $730 million over 10 years. That means $73 million per year, which is what we're already getting. My concern there is it's not indexed and there's no capacity for growth.
It's always a concern. We've got a very big employer in an area if that's put in jeopardy, but fortunately that's all behind us.
The Latrobe Council believes the ownership transfer will ensure the Mersey is no longer used as a political football, but others are concerned what will happen after the 10 years.
There is concern about the ability of the amount provided to meet the cost of health inflation, and this is what we'll be seeking to get some more detail around.
Once the federal funding runs out, it will be up to the state to keep the hospital going. The Prime Minister's certain Tasmania can take on that responsibility.
After the 10 years, the federal funding formula that applies to every other hospital will continue.
Monica Dadson at Southern Cross News.
The newest member of State Parliament has officially been sworn in. Shane Broad's first day met with intense debate over our health system, with accusations the government isn't listening to medical professionals.
It was a friendly start to the day for the Labor Party as they welcomed their newly elected Browden MP into the circle. The agricultural scientist's family was there for the occasion. Dr Broad is keen to sink his teeth into the new role.
I'd really like to see a focus on linking the brand Tasmania to our agricultural produce. That's probably the first thing.
But the smiles didn't last long. The opposition leader well and truly settled into her new role.
Premier, these are very, very serious allegations. They go to the heart of the crisis at the Royal Hobart Hospital.
Government and leadership is not a game. Madam Speaker, we are delivering results and we're focusing on that.
A cancer patient who spoke at a Labor press conference today, who says he's been in and out of the Royal Hobart Hospital for the last 21 years, says the last 2 is the worst he's ever seen.
I've seen patients suffer being discharged but not ready to be discharged. Patients sleeping on stretchers, patients being shuffled around to try to find a bed.
Meanwhile, the forestry war of words continue, with Labor brandishing a letter from the retailer Bunnings that says its Tasmanian suppliers won't be using timber from outside their existing forest coops.
2 out of every 3 jobs were lost under the previous government by all those lockups. We are unlocking those forests and making it available.
We know that the conservation movement does not support logging in these beautiful forests, and now it's clear that a very significant retailer doesn't support it either.
The forestry legislation is being considered in the upper house. Louise Hedger, Southern Cross News.
The Public Accounts Committee tabled its findings today following last week's meeting with the Treasurer. Peter Gutwin was summoned to appear over failing to disclose the original document about the sale of the Tamar Valley Power Station. The committee says the document isn't Cabinet in confidence, but the government disagrees.
So clearly there's a dispute or a difference of opinion, and quite clearly it's a serious matter, and leaking from this committee. The committee is now tainted, and the work of the committee sadly is tainted.
Now it's up to the House of Assembly and the Legislative Council to consider the report's findings. The Prime Minister has shot down a Hobart City Council suggestion to change the date of Australia Day. It was revealed earlier this week the council will lobby the federal government to change the January 26 date. But Malcolm Turnbull doesn't agree.
Australia Day should remain exactly where it is on January 26th. I think it's Australia Day.
The council is also considering changing the date of its Hobart citizenship ceremony. A teenager has been charged for allegedly exposing himself in Hobart. Police say the 19-year-old was arrested around midday on Monday following the incident in Parliament Street, Sandy Bay. The man has been granted bail to appear in the Hobart Magistrates Court at a later date. An auctioneering legend has slammed his gavel for the last time. Scott Millen of Tulloch's Auctions is sold on retirement after 30 years in the game. His final call, full of fanfare, as an extremely rare relic went under the hammer.
His name is synonymous with auctioneering, but today Scott Millen was going once, twice, 3 times.
$20, thank you.
Handing this iconic house to its new owners.
Oh yeah, a little bit emotional actually. You know, 30 years we've been doing this, so you know we've had a wonderful ride.
Collections worldwide house items which were once under Millen's watch. A platypus rug from a bygone era to a centuries-old John Glover landscape. But he saved one of the best to last. This very rare breastplate presented to an Aboriginal elder in 1911.
It's beautifully inscribed with an emu on one side and a kangaroo on the other, a little crown in the centre, which was obviously a sign of distinguishment for King Jack.
Fewer than 50 of these have survived.
It was just something that was sought after by the Aboriginal elders, and they weren't given away lightly.
And today it went for $22,000, double what was expected.
Congratulations, sir. Very well bought.
As Tulloch's enters a new era, a sea change is in order for its outgoing owner. But not before passing on a few wise tips for tomorrow's auctioneers.
Be prepared to give things a little bit of time. Before you bring the hammer down, make sure there's no more bids, because once the hammer's down, it's very hard to reopen the bidding again.
Sure, it's going to be an emotional last time the hammer goes down today.
Yeah, probably will be.
Tom Johnson, Southern Cross News.
The supercars have officially roared into Tasmania. Large B double trucks making their way down the southern outlet this afternoon for the annual Transporter Parade. The convoy, a chance for fans to catch the first glimpse of the trucks before they set up camp at Symonds Plains for the weekend. Around 60,000 people are expected to attend the supercars over the event's 3 days. Racing will begin on Friday. Now let's take a look at the day's business and finance news with thanks to Tasplan, your local super fund. The share market has gained ground, underpinned by strong investor demand for mining and energy stocks. The ASX 200 index has risen by 19.6 points. A short time ago, the Australian dollar was trading at 75.78 US cents and 108.67 New Zealand cents.
For the first time ever, Tasmania will send 2 teams to the National Diversity Carnival in Sydney starting Sunday. Oliver Burrows-Cheng is of Malaysian heritage and says the carnival is not only a chance to mix with people from diverse backgrounds, but to also strut his stuff to scouts.
You got to really take every opportunity you get these days. You know, there's a lot of kids out there hoping to get drafted, so yeah.
One team is an Indigenous rep team, while the All Nations side is made up of players from a variety of backgrounds.
For us, it's also about finding out who identifies as Aboriginal within the school system, who's playing footy that hasn't maybe provided that information or identified that way, and we're finding out a lot more about that.
Meanwhile, rising Tasmanian stars Taryn Thomas and Chase Jones have been selected to play for an AIS rep team in a curtain raiser to Sunday's Carlton-Essendon clash at the MCG. The cream of Australia's young cricketing crop has touched down in Tasmania. Our national under-19 side giving us a look at what's to come in future years. They're Australia's up-and-coming stars in Tasmania to show their wares against a Sri Lankan under-19 side. Our national under-19 team a glimpse into the country's cricketing future.
To kind of expose these guys to international cricket early on and early as possible, it really puts us in good stead for the World Cup next year.
Austin Waugh, son of Steve, is in the team, as is James Sutherland's son Will. But individuals aside, the boys are focused on team-based success.
There's a couple of individual things you kind of look for, but ultimately it's a team sport in the end, so you look to do what's best for your team and try to kind of really help out your mates.
The Australians will play 6 matches against Sri Lanka at the Twin Ovals starting Saturday. Still on cricket, and the best Tasmanian indoor cricketers will get the chance to play on the national stage. A new national league formed. Teams from the Huon, Eastern Shore and Hobart to battle it out for the right to represent the state.
We'll play a 9-game roster throughout winter, and then in September the winning team will go out to Melbourne to compete against the rest of the country.
Tiger Cam Wheatley will suit up for the Huon side. Hurricane spinner Clive Rose to play for the Hobart team. He's also given new Canes coach Gary Kirsten the tick of approval.
Good coach, he's got a pretty good record and a lot of experience, so it'd be a nice change, I guess, getting a coach from outside of Tasmania.
Meanwhile, Tasmanian Raw coach Julia Price will head to the US for a special study tour. She'll head along with 3 other leading female coaches and spend time at the San Francisco Giants as well as top universities.
I know they've got a huge amount of resources, but how can we sort of see what they're doing over there and maybe bring it back here and try and implement something similar?
In the Seaball, the first-time encounter between the Launceston Tornadoes and newly formed Melbourne Tigers is already shaping up to be a grudge match. Homegrown talent Taylor Roberts switched from the Tigers to the Tawns only hours before their nail-biting opener against Frankston last weekend. Coach Ben Rush says Roberts will be out to make a statement to her one-time teammates.
You know, I'm sure that'll be something she want to come out and play well against them, and I'm sure they'll come out wanting to show what she missed out on.
Roberts contributed 35 points and 17 rebounds for the side's double overtime win. Tip-off against the Tigers is 6:30 on Saturday night at Elfin Stadium. Meanwhile, new Hobart Charger Alex Chibatoni says she's loving life in Hobart. The Chargers sending her a basketball lifeline after her deal with the Melbourne Tigers didn't go to plan. Getting in the Easter spirit, the Hobart Chargers proving they're better basketballers than dessert decorators. For import replacement Alex Chibatoni, she's just happy to be here after a deal with Melbourne fell through.
I don't think I was right for them and they were the right team for me at the time. And
Chibatoni excelled with Adelaide in the WNPL last season, claiming the Rookie of the Year award. And while Melbourne wasn't a great Seaball fit, a call from the Chargers was the icing on the cake, although she got off to a shaky start last week.
Saturday, sent a text. I was like, so am I playing? And they're like, oh yeah, didn't anyone tell you? I was like, oh, okay, I'm ready.
She'll square off with Melbourne in Hobart colours this weekend. Alongside her will be returning Charger Josie Greenwood, who's loving being home after a stint in the US.
We're getting good crowds and it's really loud in there as well. With some of our offence, we're like, we need to have hand signals now because I can't hear you guys, and it's really fun. I love the new setup.
The men's side also face the Tigers in Hobart. They're coached by Australian legend Andrew Gaze. Chris Whitehead will take the floor, and he'd love star Tom Garlep to hang around for more than his contracted 3 games.
It'd be great. Tom's a great player and he's a great guy off the court. So he helps me on the court, me being the point guard. He helps me lead everybody, get everybody in position. So Tom's great.
The state's up-and-coming athletic stars have been put through their paces at this year's Southern Inter-Primary Championships.
There's lots of sportsmanship out there on the field. There's field events, there's track events, sprints, long distance, and it's just a great atmosphere for primary school children to compete in athletics.
The boys' 100-metre final so close it almost required a photo finish. Those competing in the field events also achieving some impressive results. And remembering, it's about doing your best.
Not everyone wins, and you can't always win.
Today's top performers represent the South against the state's North after Easter.
Good evening. Hobart, Launceston, Campania, Bushy Park and Ouse, all 23 and all tied for top place today. Burnie and Devonport recorded 20 degrees. Temperatures up to 5 degrees above average after Lyawini dropped to -1 overnight. Strawn and Friendly Beaches 22, Flinders Island, Grove and St Helens 21, Lowhead, Maria Island and Wynyard 20, Lyawini 15 degrees. Patchy cloud over the southern and eastern coasts of the mainland. Also a surface trough has some cloud gathering over western New South Wales and southwest Queensland. The active monsoon trough over the tropics continues to be so. Low-level cloud developed over most areas today, but we did see plenty of sun over plenty of places. Tomorrow, the dominant high remains over the Tasman Sea with ridges back to WA. A trough extends from the west there through to a cold front passing to the south of Tasmania. The winds west and northwesterly at 15 to 25 knots generally, but 10 to 15 knots over northern waters, winds up to 30 knots over the southwest during the morning. And that's why we have a strong wind warning there between Southeast Cape and Low Rocky Point. Mostly sunny Thursday for Hobart, a top of 23 degrees, 22 for Cygnet, sunny too for New Norfolk and 24. Launceston okay, 24, 22 for Devonport, partly cloudy for Campbelltown, 23 the maximum. Burnie mostly sunny, 22, 20 the top for Strawn. Smithton partly cloudy and 22 degrees. St Helens sunny and 23, mostly sunny for Swansea, 24 the high, 24 also for Fingal. On Friday, fine to mostly sunny with fresh northwesterly winds. Showers on Saturday more likely over the north and west, with showers into Sunday with winds turning southerly. A shower developing over Perth tomorrow. Sunny weather for Adelaide, Melbourne and Canberra. A possible shower for Sydney with 24 degrees and showers for Brisbane and Cairns. It's clear and 15 in Hobart and Launceston. Right now in Devonport, 16 degrees. Symmons Plains, supercars this weekend. Joe, I know it takes you back to the days of the Grid Girl. I hopefully will have a special guest for the weather tomorrow night. Stay tuned.
It might be a special guest. Thank you very much for that, Murph. That's all from the news team for now. We'll see you a bit later with updates. Good night.